Welcome to Zodiac Exclusive. My name is John Paul Kayuni. Today we are here talking to the ambassador of Germany to Malawi, Ute König. Your Excellency, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, John Paul. Thank you for being a guest in my residence for today's interview.
Thank you. So Germany and Malawi have enjoyed relations for about 60 years now.
61 now.
61 years.
Yes.
All right. What's your take in terms of the relations? How has the relations been between the two countries?
Right from the start, Germany was present with a diplomatic mission in Malawi. On independence, our consulate general in Blantyre was changed to an embassy. So ever since then, we had close diplomatic ties, even under the first president, Hastings Kamuzu Banda, who was also supporting Germany in the times of the Cold War. Of course, our relations have become better since you reached multi-party democracy, because we are both democracies, and we know that Malawi has been a strong partner to us also in multilateral organizations, in tackling challenges that are facing the whole world. Of course, Germany is a development partner of the Malawian government, so we have programs we execute in this country in accordance with the government priorities.
Mm-hmm. So this is supposed to be a mutual relation.
Yes,
a relationship between the two countries. What would you say have been the gains made between the two countries, the mutual gains?
Yes, I hope that we contributed to Malawi's development with the immense financial and technical support Germany has been providing since 1964. Last year, when we celebrated our Diamond Jubilee of diplomatic relations, we got figures from Germany saying that the money we spent in Malawi was over $3 billion over all the years in different projects. And of course, we have also learned from Malawi. We also have Germans coming to Malawi and Malawians going to Germany for studying. So they also input into the German society. And I think they teach us about what you call the warm heart of Africa, about your friendliness. But it would be a lie for me to say that Germany has had the same amount of mutual benefits, because we did not receive money from Malawi. So I know that we have trade relations and there are people investing in the country. But I would think that the gains are probably a bit more on the Malawian side on the financial support we give, but we get moral and value support from Malawi. If I can point expressly to the Malawian support in multilateral organizations, like in the United Nations, Malawi was standing on our side in condemning the Russian war against Ukraine, the Russian war of aggression, and also in the Human Rights Council in Geneva. Very often we share similar positions in the fight against climate change during the COP conferences. I know that we are very often arguing on the singing from the same hymn sheet. And also when we had to prepare the Summit of the Future last year, there was close cooperation here with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so that in New York we could achieve a good document. In multilateral fora, it is very often important that you have allies and friends who also support certain languages, and there are also decisions that have to be taken by consensus, like for example the Paris Climate Agreement in Paris. If somebody opposes, you cannot reach a document. Mm-hmm. So this is also on the international side very important.
So hearing you from your statement, the benefits have not been mutual.
I would say if you look at the financial side, I would say that yes, but on the shared positions, on same grounds, on values and moral, I think there we share a lot of same positions.
Of course, you don't expect to get the economic gains from Malawi, but...
Some companies do. Of course, there are some companies who invest in the country and who export coffee from Malawi to Germany, or if you have a tourism establishment and they make money in Malawi, they profit from Malawi, but these are private enterprises. This is not the German government, no.
Mm-hmm. But what's the one thing that you maybe you can point out that Germany has really benefited a lot from Malawi?
As I said, international support. That's always a good thing, that we can count on our Malawian friends to share many positions that are based on the same grounds and values.
Mm-hmm. So President Trump is shielding and isolating the US economy using aggressive tariffs. How is that affecting Germany and her relations with countries such as Malawi?
Well, Germany has always had very, very close relations with the United States of America. We are transatlantic partners. We work together in international fora, also in the G7 and the G20. And of course, Germany is an export nation. Very often in the recent years, we were the export champion, but I think now China has overtaken us. So that means that a lot of the things we produce in Germany, like cars, like machines, like pharmaceuticals, are exported. And the USA was also a big market for German companies. Several German companies have also built up factories in the United States. So the new tariffs imposed by the US government will also affect all economies in the European Union. Because we are allied in the European Union, it's up for the EU Commission to negotiate with the government of the United States about the tariffs. And recently, the President of the European Union, a German, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, she met President Trump in Scotland, and they reached an agreement which imposes 15% tariffs on all EU member states, all 27. So that's not too good for the German economy. Our Chancellor was clear about that. But that's where we stand at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Now, strong German ties with the US seem to remain
yes,
central to your foreign policy.
Yes, I mean the US has been a strong partner ever since since the end of World War II. We are allies also within NATO. We are working together in many fields like science, research, defense. So they will remain a strong partner even if our private companies in Germany feel a bit uncomfortable with the tariffs now currently.
The 1990 unification of East and West Germany appears to have promoted peaceful integration with your neighbors. How has that helped Germany coexist with other nations further afield?
Well, I think Germany has been a peaceful nation ever since the end of World War II, and we did strive to have peaceful relations with all countries in the world. That the wall fell in 1989 and that we could reunify East and West Germany in 1990 was, of course, a great historic event, and it was one of the happiest days in the history of contemporary Germans, because many people had not thought it would still be possible during their lifetime. So this was a huge diplomatic success also of the then politicians, that we could reunify peacefully, that there were no violence involved. And of course it meant that we had to develop the eastern part of Germany. So a lot of German taxpayers' money also went into developing the East, but it also opened up new borders. And I think for many young people in Germany who have lived since unification, the peace within all our Europe and the free travel we were enjoying was something they took for granted, and that is also why the shock of the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine was hitting the society so deeply. The capital of Kiev is only a short distance from Berlin, so that we are having a big war within Europe again is something that has increased insecurity all over the world. We all know that there were always conflicts all over the world, but this is now striking much closer to home.
And now, Germany has 16 federal states,
Yes.
and a thriving economy.
Yes.
What do you think central government states such as Malawi should learn from federations such as Germany?
Our federalism has deep roots in our history. It goes back to also the Middle Ages, when we had small kingdoms, there were small strongholds, and only in the 19th century under Bismarck it was unified as a German state. So we always had strong capitals within the country, and we decided on a federal system after World War II. And our 16 federal states, they also have their own budget resources. So there are taxes that they get from things happening in their area, and this is of course something that is vital for them to deliver the services to the public. There's also a certain system of federal taxes that are shared between central government and the federal states, but I think that our system also of giving the federal states their own economic base, that they have local taxes that are collected in the cities and that remain there, contribute to the strength of our system. And between the 16 states, we also have a system of solidarity. So there's like a joint fund, because some of the areas are richer than others. Some have more car factories, are more producing than other regions that are more agrarian. So they have this joint fund. And from there, some of the richer parties send money to the poorer federal states, so that there can be like we try to have the same living conditions in most parts of Germany. And for this fund is also helping. Of course, sometimes there are debates. Some countries says we are paying too much. Why should we pay for kindergartens in the capital? We also can do something good with our money in our state. But these are settled then by negotiations among the 16 states and the central government. So there are general meetings of all the state premiers, and they try to reach consensus on these things.
Malawi will be going to elections in under 30 days on 16 September. How do you think Malawi is preparing for this day?
Well, I could see that you have been preparing ever since I arrived in the country. I think the first conferences were in August 2023, when the then Malawi Electoral Commission was showing their calendar and what they are planning to do and what this simple steps will be taken. And of course, the whole process has taken up speed now. We're in the campaign mode now since 14th of July. And of course, you see that emotions are getting stronger, and that there is much more discussion now on the party manifestos, on the candidates, on the values of their ideas, on what will have an effect. We see more polls now coming out, trying to see how the mood is. And I expect that in the next 34 days, you said, this will continue. And my hope is, of course, that the whole campaign period will be peaceful and that there will not be any violent clashes amongst the partisans of certain parties.
In just some few weeks ago, we saw some political violent scenes. How do you think those scenes may affect the outcomes of the election?
Well, we saw them in June, but we also saw them already last year in November. And I think the president and also the other party presidents were calling for peaceful times, and we saw that all the parties signed the code of conduct, which should also contribute to their sticking to a peaceful campaign period. But the heads of missions in Malawi, we have voiced our concern last year and also this year in June. And I was not in the country, but I saw pictures, of course, of what happened in Lilongwe. And this is concerning because it might affect the participation of voters. If voters are afraid that they would get hurt or would run into trouble when they go to the voting booth on the day, this is bad for democracy.
You obviously monitoring, you have systems to monitor the situation in the country.
Yes.
From the time that the statement condemning the political violence was issued, what is it that you've seen to this day? Do you see change?
Well, I think we have not had a repeat since then, so that's obviously a good sign. We see that there are more and more large campaigns, but they happen without newer incidents. And that's something that gives me hope that this might stay so till the 14th of September, because I think your campaign period ends 2 days before the elections, and then you should have 2 days of peace and quiet that everybody can make up his mind on what to vote for.
There are some sections of the Malawi society that think civic space is shrinking. Do you share the same view?
We talk to members of the civil society organization. That's a regular dialogue most diplomats in the country have with the local societies, and we see their concerns, and on certain aspects we also share their concerns. When you see that journalists are attacked or that their cameras are taken away, this of course hinders the work, and if people are afraid to give their minds on social media because they feel they might be taken to prison afterwards, it has its influence, yes.
How do you think that may affect the general elections ahead?
Well, I hope it does not affect the general elections, because my understanding was that Malawi is a free society. Every day in the papers I see critical reports and critical opinion papers also voicing your own concerns, criticizing government, criticizing opposition, criticizing each other. So I hope that this freedom of expression is guaranteed, so that people can listen to it and make up their own mind on whose idea they consider to be the best to give that person their vote on September 16th.
The Malawi economy has not ticked since 1994. And as we speak now, forex, fuel, food, fertilizer are challenges in the country. How is Germany, as a partner to Malawi, helping with the permanent solutions to these challenges? Talk of the quest in achieving macroeconomic stability.
Well, we have several programs amongst our development cooperation sectors that aim to help Malawi overcome poverty, hunger, the food situation, and we're also having special programs that should support growth in the country and the reform of the public financial management system. So there are programs where young entrepreneurs can get grants to help them grow their business, either under the growth accelerator for small and medium-sized enterprises, and there's also the Green Ecology Transformation Fund that we do together with UNDP that gives bigger grants, and we have a whole program implemented by our German GIZ that helps to create more income and employment in rural areas. It's called Mira, so we hope to train people so that they find new opportunities to grow their job opportunities, because growth is really one way of getting more things done. We don't subsidize any fertilizer or fuel, but I know that also in agriculture in the past there were agricultural formations, training, so we train people to help themselves.
From the initiatives that you've mentioned, how do you assess the progress, the benefit going to Malawians?
Well, we know, of course, for each project we do, there are regular evaluations done, that we have missions coming, that they check out whether it's a successful project or not, how many beneficiaries there are in each project. And as long as they are satisfied and we agree that this is a good program to continue with the Malawian government, then they're also going into additional rounds. For example, in Mira, we are now in the third and fourth round of giving money for that special program for more income and economic jobs opportunities in rural areas.
There are mixed views in Malawi about the relevance of the Bretton Woods institutions to macroeconomic stability in this country. Do you think Malawi has made gains in her sticking to extended credit facility as a measure to performance of her economy?
When I arrived in Malawi in August 2023, we were just in the process of reaching the ECF agreement with the IMF, and Germany as a shareholder of the IMF was very supportive, and we think that it was a good program. The Malawi government was also making commitments to reforms. This is always criticized worldwide sometimes, that the IMF puts conditions on the support it gives. But as a German shareholder of the IMF, of course, we also have to be aware that we are spending German taxpayers' money. So there are some strings attached with any IMF program, and I think that there are very successful IMF programs worldwide. I understand also that the government wants to return to the IMF after the elections, and from what I read also in the party manifestos, also some of the other candidates plan to return to the IMF and to decide for anew. But I know that Malawi is not alone, and that there are internationally more voices criticizing the Bretton Woods institutions. I was ambassador in the Caribbean, and the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mrs. Mia Mottley, she was a very strong advocate also within the African states for her Bridgetown initiative, which seeks to reform all the multinational Bretton Woods institutions. But these are processes that take a long time. But I know that her Bridgetown initiative has been under discussion now for 4 years. And we'll see where this comes. She's garnering more and more support, and there are more people also thinking that the terms sometimes of the interests, especially very small countries, have to pay higher interests than bigger countries, so that the debt burden of the countries is increasing if they take credit. And we know that the debt situation of Malawi is too high and really unsustainable. So I understand that Malawi also considers this initiative, but it will take international processes for reform also take time. But it's Malawi is not alone in being critical of the IMF from time to time. We know that.
Do you think it's just an issue of attitude, or there's really a problem with the Bretton Woods institutions in terms of the approach to economically developing some countries, especially developing countries in Africa?
No, I think we also, with our development programs, we also try to agree on milestones, things you want to reach with a program. So from that view, it's understandable that also the Bretton Woods institutions, if they give money, they have to give certain guidelines what it should be used for. And I think that's especially true if you know the history of Malawi. After the Cashgate scandal, all the donors have been very, very reluctant in giving budget support to Malawi. So coming to an agreement with the IMF in November 2023 has opened the door for more budget support for Malawi again. That's, for example, from the EU side. Germany, we stick to project money currently.
Is it the approach or the implementation itself?
No, very often in Malawi I talk to other donor partners and NGOs, and we all always agree that Malawi is very good at writing plans and strategies, but that the implementation very often is lacking, and that there needs to be done more to implement your programs and reforms as well, yes. So it's not only attitude, it's also implementation that is needed.
How do you suggest Malawi gets to do that?
No, that's, well, that's for the government. If you have an idea, you must also sometimes take hard choices to reach your goals. And this especially is difficult in an election campaign period when some things are not making you popular. We know that before the ECF, there was a devaluation of the kwacha of 44%, which of course was hitting all the consumers in Malawi very, very dearly. And it was not giving the results everybody had hoped for. So it did not help to solve the Forex situation. So I understand that His Excellency and also the Reserve Bank, they have ruled out another devaluation before the election, even though a free-floating US dollar might help on the Forex situation now.
One of the threats to desired progress in Malawi is corruption.
Yes.
Is this a problem in Germany as well?
I think corruption is a worldwide problem, and we also had high-ranking cases in Germany that are investigated, where people are put on trial and where assets are taken from the thing. And this is really, corruption is it's a theft on the society, because if you bribe somebody to get a certain procurement contract, it probably means that you make more profit, that the other side pays too much for the service, and then you're robbing the taxpayer and maybe also delivering a bad service. So this is something we see in many countries, and I cannot rule out corruption in Germany, because we also had high-ranking cases that were high in the German media. Maybe it didn't make it to the Malawi news, but in Germany we know that it can also happen. But the German laws are very strict, and it's hopeful that the police and the prosecutors investigate and come to terms with offenders quickly.
Elsewhere, I hear corruption is a shameful thing to do.
It is, yeah.
In Germany, how do you look at it? What's the perception of people on someone who is maybe involved in corruption, or someone who is answering corrupt charges?
Well, he's a criminal, so he doesn't have a good reputation in Germany, no? But of course, he must be proven guilty in a court case. So while there are just allegations and no proofs, then of course somebody is considered innocent until proven guilty in German under our system of law.
From what is happening in Malawi now in terms of corruption, do you see the problem being resolved anytime soon?
Well, we see that the post of the ACB director has not been filled since Martha has left, and it's only an acting head of the ACB. So I know that the government, they are employing more lawyers now at the ACB, so there were more funds allocated to it. But of course, somebody who has the position in real and can have all the backing from government can act more decisively than if you're only acting. So I know that the process is open, and we are supporting also the ACB, also together with our European Union partners in a joint program to help them with capacitation, and the GIZ helped ACB to develop a handbook for primary school teachers to teach everybody about corruption. You can also be corrupt if you pay something to the teacher so that your son gets a better grade in school. That's also corruption on a petty scale, but you must be aware in all circles of society of what can happen.
You talked about the delay in employing the SCB Director General. What is it that you would suggest in this?
No, I understand it's still an open court case after the ombudsperson intervened, so I just hope that this can be settled soon. But I know, of course, also that the justice system in Malawi is very often overburdened, and that several cases take a long time. And this is sometimes frustrating for the people involved, also for offenders who are in prison and who they don't get their day in court and maybe are cleared. So it's something that the government and the judiciary are working on, but very many cases take too long before they reach the verdict.
Talk of the judiciary and corruption. Latest report by the Malawi Human Rights Commission indicated or pointed that there is corruption involving some judicial officers, judges. When you hear something like that, and this now, the delay of cases in court, How does that make you feel?
No, of course it makes everybody feel uncomfortable, but it's not that I heard it through the Human Rights Commission for the first time. You probably remember the pastoral letter of last year, February, when they were also claiming that the judiciary was corrupt, and then I was fairly new in the country. I had just been here for 6 months, and I was very surprised because my understanding was that the judiciary was held in high regard, especially after the decisions taken in 2020, and the judiciary had received international awards, the Chatham House Award. So I came here with the expectation that you have a judiciary that is held in high esteem, but I also talked to many people who confirmed what the bishops wrote, so I was not totally surprised in seeing the new report. And of course I know that there are cases that are currently under investigation where judges are on leave while the cases are being dealt with. So I just hope that every case can be brought to justice to increase the trust of the public in the judiciary again, because the judiciary is an important pillar of any government, and it's a value you should keep and cherish.
Do you think the involvement, the corruption allegations against some judicial officers, and also the judiciary handling corruption cases may have some effect in terms of the speed at which justice on corruption issue cases is delivered?
Well, I think that every case that comes to completion in the judicial system helps to get rid of the backlog of cases you have. And of course, I would wish that all cases are done in a good mode, so that you don't rush, but that you really have all the evidence, and that you don't rush through in order to receive a result which is maybe doubtable. But I know that there might be, if you have a decision of a lower court, you can go to the higher court to check it up again. I studied law, so I know how it works. But it's not my role as an ambassador to give advice on your judicial system, because from Germany we have total different sets of rules. You are following the British system and how things are done. So I know that the judges I met always were very, very aware of what they plan to do and what more could be done and needed to be done.
In Germany, have you had cases of judicial officers involved in corruption? How have you dealt with that?
Honestly, I've been living abroad for 10 years now as an ambassador, and I'm sure that there might have been cases, but we are a country of 84 million people, but I cannot, I don't follow all these things. I simply cannot rule it out. There might have been.
So in history you haven't had any cases?
No, I just don't know. I'm abroad, so I'm following what happens abroad in my host country. There may be some. There was no big cases that made headline news, but there may be something smaller happening in some town in Germany I'm simply not aware of. So I don't know.
For a judicial officer who is embroiled in corruption,
but we know we had cases against police officers that they were doing things and having chat groups where they were making bad remarks. So there are cases that involve police, and also that I know of, but it's not that people said that we gave him money or something, but there are cases, for example, against police people that are under disciplinary investigations.
Okay, now for someone who is alleged to be involved in corruption, say a judicial officer, what would you suggest they do to ensure that there is transparency, there is speed at which the cases are, the justice is delivered involving the person?
No, of course, a person must report it to the competent authorities. I think that's normally the police who would investigate it, and if they have a case, they would give it to the DPP, I assume, so that they can pursue the case. That would be the normal way we would do it in Germany, and I assume that it would be here in the same way.
Some people suggest that if you are alleged to be involved in, say, corruption, maybe it's right for you to step down or to pave way for proper investigations, step down and pave way for proper investigations?
It's a wide step talking about allegations. It sometimes depends. We are living in a time today where we have, with the advent of social media and of artificial intelligence, it gets so easy also to fabricate wrong news. You can put words into the mouth of persons while through AI programs that they said something which might not be true. So I think that everybody has to, there is a presumption of innocence, and that's a valid principle of most democracies. So just because somebody says something, I think there needs to be a thorough investigation. And if in the course of that investigation it seems to be coming closer, then I would expect an honorable person to take responsibility and to consider something. But this is all very, very general remarks. No.
You mentioned that your government supports some institutions in Malawi in terms of fighting corruption. Are you satisfied with the performance of the institutions that your government supports?
Well, we're doing like training for the public finance management. There's collaboration with the ACB. And of course, you can always do more, and we are continuing in our program. So it's an ongoing process. I don't think we have reached the end of the line yet.
What is your view of Malawi's implementation of public finance reforms and audits, especially under the programs you fund?
No, we saw that there was a backlog resolved, that reports were put online, but we know that there's still a lot of things to be done to look into the account sheets, to make the banking sheets compatible with each other, and the training continues.
To what extent does Germany use its aid as a leverage for improving transparency, human rights, and rule of law in partner countries like Malawi?
Malawi is one of the countries where good governance is also one of our areas, and of course the training in public finance management, support for anti-corruption measures, that forms part of it. So, but some of our programs here, like Social Cash or the health program, they of course try to reach the people that are needy, and we don't want to discriminate anybody on behalf of his gender or religion or anything. So we try to look really at the vulnerable, needy persons that we find in the Malawi Social Registry, and we try not to discriminate. Of course, not everybody is a beneficiary of the programs, but that we take into account. And from the human rights perspective, many of our programs, of course, look at the situation, especially of women, youth, and other marginalized groups in the country. This is always a special focus on our development aid.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate your time being with us here on Zodiac Exclusive.
Thank you, John Paul. Thank you, Zodiac, also for giving me the chance to tell a bit about Germany's role in Malawi and our mutual relationships.
Thank you very much. And that's how we end today's exclusive program with the German ambassador to Malawi, König. My name is John Paul Kayuni. Till next time, goodbye.